Welcome to R&R Living Life. In this episode, Rick and I leave Tallangatta and make our way to Wodonga, where we cross the border to visit its twin city Albury and explore the greater Hume Shire. On our way to Wodonga, we stopped in to Ludlow's Reserve near Ebden on Lake Hume. Ludlow's Reserve has a free campground and rest stop picnic area with stunning views across the lake. Back on the road, and it was on past Bungalla, where once an army camp was transformed into a post-World War II migrant reception and training centre, where new arrivals lived while they were processed and allocated jobs. Bungalla became the largest and longest operating reception centre in the post-war era. More than 300,000 migrants passed through its doors between 1947 and 1971. with most of those originating from non-English speaking European countries. They had diverse arrival and settlement experiences. Today, Block 19 is all that remains of the original site. On our way into Wodonga, we passed the Wadsworth, Gaza Ridge and Latchford Army Barracks, home of strong industrial-focused army training, especially in advanced manufacturing, communications and technologies. We navigated the streets of Wodonga to find our caravan park, where we were to park up for a couple of days. That afternoon we did a few jobs around town before putting our feet up. The boat was in for a service, and while she was being serviced I had planned on some downtime. We even got in some time to have haircuts and a few other odd jobs that needed doing. Wodonga in Victoria is situated on the southern side of the Murray River, surrounded with hills and rich agricultural valleys. It was founded in 1852 as a customs post, with its twin city Albury separated by Gateway Island that is surrounded by the Murray River and the Wodonga Creek. Wodonga became an important river port for nearby Victorian goldfields. When the first bridge across the Murray was built in 1860, the town subsequently grew. The first European settler in the area was Robert Brown, who in 1838 built a slab hut which operated as a general store. There was a time when Albury Wodonga, as it was commonly called, was seen as the future of rural decentralisation in Australia. It was to become a major rural centre with all the advantages of both a country town and a modern city. The following day we followed the Hume Highway past Albury and the huge Eromanga Rail Hub, a privately owned state-of-the-art intermodal facility providing a rail transport option for containers travelling within Australia. Then a large cattle selling complex, and on through Mullingadra and onto Holbrook, named after Lieutenant Norman Holbrook, the first submariner to win the Victoria Cross, and also known as the Submarine Town because it houses a decommissioned submarine, the HMAS Otway. In 1915, over 90 Australian place names changed during World War I because of their German associations. Towns as well as streets, creeks and parks had their names changed in order to express indignation at the conduct of Germany in the First World War, with Holbrook one of those towns. Holbrook has had several names over the years. Originally named by Hume and Hovell as Friday Mount and Camden Forest, it was later known as Theory or Billabong in 1836, followed by 10 Mile Creek in 1838 and the Germans in 1858, after early German settlers, until it was gazetted in 1876 as Germantown. It was then renamed in 1915 during World War I due to anti-German sentiment to Holbrook to honour Lieutenant Holbrook. Today, Holbrook is the centre of a richly diverse rural economy. It is said that the Holbrook district has some of the best grazing land in New South Wales, with numerous cattle studs and primary producers reputedly being leaders in their field. Other farming operations include the production of fine wool and meat from cattle, sheep and goats, cropping of wheat and other grains, lucerne, pasture seed production, tree nurseries, timber plantations, and grape growing. I was amazed by the sheer size and grandeur of the submarine, especially in this very unique rural setting, and after spending time checking it out, we returned to the Hume Highway. It was then that I began to get lost, as we continued along the highway to Little Billabong Road, then on to Tumbarumba Road, making our way through Carabost, a forestry community in the southeast part of the Riverina. We stopped in Rosewood to check out the roadside gnome retirement village and was surprised by the number of gnomes in the garden around the tree. Rick and I found it an interesting point of interest, but what a confusing area to live in, as Rosewood is administered by two local governments, the northern part by the Greater Hume Shire, while the southern part of the locality by the Snowy Valley Council, with the towns within the Snowy Valley Council area. It must be confusing for the residents. Eucalyptus oil has made the village famous, but there was very little else in the town. European settlement of Rosewood commenced in the 1830s, when the extremely ambitious William Guise formed the property on Dimmeline as an outpost for his existing property in the Murrumbidgee district. The property was passed to D.R. Gale and then to John McAuliffe and Patrick Craven. In the late 1860s, they divided the property, with McAuliffe retaining half under the name of Glenroy and Craven taking the northern half, naming it Rosewood. Located on the boundary zone of two different geological areas, the southwest slopes found on the lower hills that lead away from the Great Dividing Range, and the Riverina Plain, comprising alluvial plains and rolling hills, making it an ideal location to grow pine plantations. While in the area, we went to check out the Pioneer Women's Hut in the Glenroy Heritage Reserve, set amongst rolling hills with a view of the Snowy Mountains. The Women's Hut was said to be one of the best and most unusual small museums in the country, cleverly themed to reflect the ingenuity of women in finding solutions to the challenges of looking after a family in early rural Australia. Sadly, as it is run entirely by community volunteers and donations, the site was closed on the day we were there. So it was back along Tumbarumba Road to Kararoo Road that turned to gravel, and Rick was in his element again. 10 kilometres along McGinty's Gap Road, we eventually came to a stone marker memorial of Sergeant David McGinty, near where the policeman was shot. We could easily have missed it in amongst the trees, on the boundary between the Tumbarumba and Holbrook shires. In 1864, the sergeant was returning from a patrol to Coppabella to Tumbarumba with Constable Churchley when they encountered the bushranger and outlaw Daniel Morgan. As they neared Morgan, he shot McGinty, then rode off. The sergeant's horse plunged into the bush, carrying its mortally wounded rider. The sergeant's body that had been looted was recovered the following day. Morgan was later seen riding the sergeant's horse. Morgan also shot another police officer 3 months later, thus was the killer of the first 2 officers who died after the setting up of the New South Wales Police in the 1860s. In April 1865, while holding up the Peach Elba station in Victoria, Morgan was shot and killed by a stockman. We continued along the gravel McGinty Gap Road, past Mundaroo Flora Reserve and the stunning Murray River forests, and along the edge of pine plantations to a narrow piece of bitumen over a creek at the corner of Coppabella Road and McGinty Gap Road. After a short distance, the road turned back to gravel. It was amazing country, picturesque with a cool climate look and clean air, forever changing as we made our way back towards Albury. By now we had been on so many roads, and my sense of direction, that is very limited at the best of times, was beginning to have no idea of where we were going. So I just sat back and enjoyed the drive. Even the well-maintained gravel road was enjoyable. The Tumbarumba region is situated on the western side of the New South Wales Snowy Mountains, boasting mountain rivers and lakes, parks, forests and farms, and best of all, clean fresh air. It really was a beautiful region, and we especially enjoyed the countryside we were travelling through. We had passed through quite a few sparsely populated localities, and as usual I wondered how the communities survived. The Glenroy Heritage Reserve was a prime example, and it was only one of, I am sure, many other interesting and worthwhile points of interest out there that are no longer functioning because of the lack of volunteers in those areas. We did make it back to the Hume Highway, which gave me some idea of where I was, and from there we made our way to Hume Dam. When finished in 1936, the Hume Dam was the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere and one of the largest in the world. The 318-metre long concrete spillway is 51 metres high, with a short earth embankment on the New South Wales side and a 1.2 kilometre long embankment across the river flats on the Victorian side, making the total length of 1.6 kilometres. We had seen it from a distance, but up close it was an impressive sight. Rick and I spent time walking out onto the dam wall and seeing the dam at less than 1/3 capacity. I was impressed by the huge number of turtles we could see over the edge of the dam wall in the water below the spillway. Even at this very low level, the Hume Dam was spectacular, with such an impressive body of water held behind an awe-inspiring dam wall. I could only imagine what it would look like when the water level was closer to the top of the dam, but the scenery was stunning. While Rick checked out down below the dam at the spillway, I walked down to the fence along the foreshore at the edge of the lake. For the past week or so, we have toured around the Snowy Mountains and Lake Hume, following the Murray as far as Albury Wodonga, and now to actually walk out onto the dam wall was special. Such a large area of Victoria and New South Wales is impacted by the engineering feats of the Snowy Scheme and the Hume Dam. Such a massive effect on the landscape, the environment and countryside, and the towns above and below the dam is astonishing. We had wandered off the Murray for today to investigate the country around the Greater Hume Shire, situated in the Riverina region of New South Wales, adjacent to major highways including the Hume, Olympic and Riverina highways, and the Snowy Valley Council area. Our travels today have taken us through some very dry country, but I was beginning to learn that the weather is so very different to that of North Queensland. But even with the vastly different weather patterns, the country was in drought. Victoria and the Greater Hume region was so very dry. Despite the predicted cold nights that were forecast, it was set to be a warmer than average winter, so the likelihood of conditions improving was not promising. To think that the primary role of both Lake Hume and the Snowy Mountain Scheme was to regulate and conserve water for both human consumption and the environment, along with the added benefits of hydroelectric power generation and flood mitigation. Such engineering achievements, one being built in the years after World War I, while the other after World War II. I think it gave the public something that was hopeful and optimistic after so much uncertainty during the wars. While the Snowy Mountain Scheme took 25 years to complete and has caused controversy over environmental issues, with some concerned water managers, conservationists, politicians and farmers continuing to advocate for the return of the environmental flow of the Snowy River, but I will leave that debate alone. Today, the dam continues to play a crucial role in capturing winter and spring rainfall from the Australian Alps and releasing it to regulate the flow of the River Murray. It is still providing irrigation, water supplies for stock and household needs, as well as water to towns and landholders along the Murray River across 3 states, and continues to be used for flood mitigation and hydroelectricity. Returning to the boat, we made our way to Albury, a major regional city situated above the river flats of the Murray River in the foothills of the Great Dividing Range, located on the Hume Highway on the northern side of the Murray River, while its twin city Wodonga is on the southern side. Albury has developed as a major transport link between New South Wales and Victoria and was proclaimed a city in 1946. Once in Albury, we made our way to the impressive war memorial that we could see at the western end of Dean Street on Monument Hill. After finding our way to Roper Street, we made our way up to the monument. Were we in for a surprise? It was not just an outstanding memorial, but the site also gave us views of the city's streetscape and the surrounding region. The white concrete tower in the form of a tapered lighthouse painted stark white with a crowning type feature about 2 metres high and faced with 40 panes of prismatic glass was unbelievable. Not just the sheer imposing height of the structure, but it dominated the site. We spent time reading a number of individual plaques set in a wide circle of gardens around the base of the monument, recalling those who had died in both the First and Second World Wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War. It really was a sombre occasion, though poignant, away from all the hustle and bustle of the city below. From the monument, Rick and I made our way back across the border into Victoria and Gidget. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Join us next time as we make our way towards Cobram, stopping in at Rutherglen and camping at Tungamah. Give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed our travels and leave a comment. Stay safe and enjoy life. Cheers for now. Rick and Rosemary. R&R Living Life.